The day I nearly jumped out of my skin started like any other. There I was, ready to clean one of my regular clients' home. "My brother's around today," my client casually mentioned as she let me in, her words barely registering as I nodded and began my routine. Kitchens and bathrooms were my forte, so I would always start with those. It was therapeutic, the scrubbing and wiping. A ballet of cleanliness performed in solitude, or so I thought. The living room was last on my list. I expected nothing more than scattered newspapers and the odd coffee ring on wooden tables. But there, like a statue, sat the brother I'd been forewarned about. So still, so silent, he could have been mistaken for another piece of furniture. I admit my heart did a quick skip at the sight. Brushing off the initial shock, I got to work. The whisper of my cloth over surfaces creating a familiar soundtrack to my labor, yet his presence was disconcerting. His eyes were locked onto me, unblinking, tracking every move I made. I tried to ignore the prickling sensation on the back of my neck, the one that screamed for attention every time I glanced his way and found his gaze unchanged. Unfaltering, minutes ticked by, each one stretching longer than the last. The tick of the clock was the only indication that time hadn't frozen. I could feel the tension knitting my shoulders into knots, my mind racing through every possible scenario. What if nerves eventually got the better of me? I couldn't shake the icy grip of concern that maybe, just maybe, that he had passed. Heart hammering, I inched closer, reaching out with tentative fingers to check for the rise and fall of his chest. And then movement. He scratched his head and moved around a bit. My yelp was embarrassingly loud enough to have my client back into the room with a look of concern that quickly turned into amusement. "He's blind," she explained with a chuckle, and had turned off his hearing aid. "Probably didn't even know you were here." Relief flooded me, and with it came the laughter, the kind that bubbles up from the relief of realized absurdity. She walked over and swatted him on the head. He turned his hearing aid back on and she told him that we had a guest. We ended up chatting the rest of the time it took to clean the living room.